at Pan Am 360. I have the great pleasure to interview Nai Barghouti, who is the opener for the Arabic World Montreal Festival. Welcome, Nai.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We're very pleased because we've been told, and after we listened to a lot of your music, we've been told that you were a rising star in Middle East, but also you're probably not based there right now, but you're Palestinian, you're Jerusalem born, and you have a great career right now. But of course, your career is emerging internationally in a very difficult context. But first, let's talk about your craft, your way, your singing, your compositions, and also you're a flute player. So you are a multi-instrumentalist, composer, singer, songwriter, and also well, I don't like to use the term diva, but maybe it fits for you.
Thank you. Very sweet of you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So when we listen to your music, we have a very modern way of producing um, traditional or classical Arabic music, but with new tools of production and different ways of approaching rhythms and also the surrounding sounds of your singing. Would you agree with that?
Yes, so it's always been my musical goal to basically bring out my musical roots and the things that I was raised with, the things that first inspired me to do music, which is classical Arabic music, and then bringing that in a way that is modern and that also speaks to my current personality, to my character, and to all the different inspirations around me and the musical elements that I see around me as I go and live through life.
Yeah. Can you talk about the way your sound has evolved since the beginning of your career?
So yeah, so I think until I was maybe 15 or 16 years old, I was only listening to the very old Arabic classical music. So anything later than 1930 for me I used to think of it as pop music. So it was really like extreme, love for Arabic classical music from Egypt specifically. So I was listening to Kulthum, who's like the icon of Arabic music. She was my first inspiration to sing as a vocalist. I was listening to Abdul Wahab, a prominent composer who changed the course of Arabic music repertoire. So I was really into that. But on the other hand, in parallel to that, I was also really in love with jazz for some reason. I was really lucky to be raised in a family that loves music so much and that had a very diverse style of listening. So they liked everything from jazz to flamenco to classic to Western classical music to Arabic music and everything in between. So I grew up listening to all of that. Then I decided to study jazz. So that was a huge shift in my musical knowledge and experience. And then that sound, the very classical Arabic sound, really shifted throughout the years into a more modern sound, in which I also experimented with my own compositions to see where my voice can take me, how I can move in between genres that I like in a way that's really seamless and very, well connected, rather than having separate genres that are just fused together. So that's been my main purpose in music, and I think that's how I've been shifting my style since a young age until now.
Well, we can see that jazz fits very well with Arabic music. We saw that many times. For example, Rabbani brothers and the son Rabbani Ziad Rabbani is doing a lot of jazz, and we can see that a lot in Lebanon, for example. And I suppose it happened in Palestine.
Yes, so many people have, fused Arabic music with jazz. Like you mentioned, Ziad Rahbani for me is a huge inspiration of somebody who he's my favorite composer to really fuse these two genres together. You also have some instrumentalists like Brahim Malouf, an amazing trumpet player who also brings together Arabic music with jazz. So there have been so many people who are, fusing those two genres together. But as a vocalist, I still felt a need to also emphasize the vocal aspect of combining jazz and Arabic music. So not just through harmony, arrangements, melodies, which is really nice, but also to add the vocal element to it. So really studying the way the voice can travel between those genres, the ornaments that are different, everything that has to do with the musical elements of the voice, of how to do that as a vocalist.
Yes, also in Arabic classical music, the makam, the melodic lines, the classical melodic lines of Arabic world uh, allowed the singer to improvise. And this is what we observe. Sometimes in your songs, there is improvisation, vocal improvisation.
Yes, improvisations for me are is my favorite thing to do, and especially really, pushing improvisations to see how far it can go. I started out, with very, let's say, more typical vocal improvisation, so I learned all the traditions of doing that in an Arabic setting. But now I like to focus more on using my voice as an instrument. And that's been a vocal technique that I'm developing. And I had my master's thesis in Amsterdam to study this particular technique, which I called NaiStrumentation, or dandanai in Arabic. And it's basically a vocal technique that uses the voice as an instrument through a very ornamental approach and through very different musical elements that are combined in that ornamental approach to improvisation. So it can be a very open improvisation in a specific song, but it can also be an entire instrumental piece that is usually played by instruments, but then I sing it using my voice, but behaving as an instrument.
Yeah, it becomes scat, or when the voice becomes more instrumental, as you say, it becomes part of the band. It's not only, well, not only, it's very important to be a front woman and sing with words, but sometimes, as you say, in your technique, you're using voice as ornamental instrument.
Hmm. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So you combine both. This defines your approach.
Yes. It also really allows me to combine these different genres that I love, but in a way that's really organic. So it's not a forced thing. I like to really have the music follow. I just follow the music rather than force it to be a certain thing. I don't want to go to a song and say, okay, how can I make this more jazzy, or how can I make this more Arabic? No, I really like to make it natural. So there's a melody, it's organically like this. It's a natural third sound that comes together to bring those two sounds together.
Yes, of course. It comes from the unconscious. It's not a plan or a strategy. No artist, no good artist will think is in an intellectual way of combining techniques. It happens after you learned it.
Hmm. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
But if I understand, you adapted a technique in Holland to your own tradition, and you have your own version of this specific technique.
Yes. So, of course, using the voice as an instrument is not a new thing. Like you said, it's in scat singing and jazz. It's in Konakol music from South India, the rhythmic Indian music. It's in very different genres of music. But the way that Nai instrumentation is different is that it focuses on the ornamental approach of voice. So that's where it really comes into a different, to fill a certain gap, which is the Arabic music ornamental approach in other non-Arabic music genres. So that's the main thing that differentiates it and in what I'm currently developing.
And also, you are doing something that is totally accessible to large audiences. It's not only an intellectual or subgenre for a happy few. You're trying to connect with a lot of people with song forms.
Yes, because I think non-lyrical music has the potential to to reach more people. I love lyrical music as well, but I always feel a special connection with the audience when I introduce instrumentation, or when I do something like that with my voice. It's always, no matter where I am. I tried it in Canada, in the US, in Europe, in the Middle East, really all over. And it's always been the one thing that's like really consistent with how the audience really perceives it. It's always been something that really connects me more with the audience, and I really love experimenting with that.
Is there a big difference with your musicians recording in the studio and what happens on stage?
Definitely, I'm a very live fan. I love singing on stage. I come up with things that I never come up with in a studio. Although right now I've been recording more in studios, and I realize when you're in the right studio with the right people, a lot of inspiration can also come, which is nice. It's just a very different setting. But I think my biggest inspiration is the audience. I think in our music, it's such a collective approach to listening to the music, and it's a very interactive approach. So seeing the audience feeling their emotions, seeing the journey of music that goes in the concert, from sometimes sadness, sometimes we cry together, sometimes it's laughter, and sometimes it's craziness, and sometimes it's love and nostalgia, and really so many different elements. I think that makes me very inspired as a musician.
With always a direct link with the Arabic tradition.
Yes, I think my roots, my musical roots, have always been there, and I think they will always be there because it's what drives me to continue as an artist and to also evolve and develop.
Yeah. And how do you present on stage? What is your band? What is the gear? What are the instruments?
So usually I have a quartet, which is based in Amsterdam, and it's a bass player, a piano player, a percussionist, and a qanun player, which is an Arabic instrument.
Canoe. Yeah.
So basically, this is the quartet that I love the most to travel with and to perform with. We've been working together for years, and each one of them is just one of the best musicians that I've ever had the privilege of working with. So they all add to the music in ways that are just not, I cannot even talk about it in words. Somebody has to really listen to it to understand what I mean. It's a very special experience. Unfortunately, due to practical and technical issues, we cannot always travel together. I cannot always have them on stage. So then I get to work with other musicians, and many times that also is a nice experience, although it has its own tough sides as well because of the planning and getting to know each other in just one or two rehearsals, which is very difficult. And also preparing music that is quite complex as well. It's not your typical pop songs or the four chord songs that just repeat, or although that's also nice, but it's a very different dynamic to the concert. It needs time.
Yeah. People have to know quarter tones and traditional or classical melodic lines, the way the voice is bending at the sometimes, so they have to adapt. But now we can find more and more in big Western world cities like Montreal. You can find some musicians who will be playing with you in Montreal.
So there will be some local musicians from Montreal, and it will be really a bigger band. So there will be around, I think, 12 people on stage. We will also have choir, also from here. They will all be Arabic musicians. So that's also been very nice. And yeah,
There will
excited.
be some arrangements, extra arrangements if there are 12 people.
Yes, so basically all my songs that I do are usually have a chance to be played in different settings. So it can be reduced to a quartet or really enhanced into a bigger audience, a bigger band, sorry, and also a choir. And yeah.
Oh yeah. So you have to rehearse today and tomorrow morning, yes, if I understand.
Yes, we had our first rehearsal yesterday actually, and we have our second rehearsal today, and then
Mhm.
tomorrow it will be the concert.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Cool.
it's a difficult experience, but it's I think we'll make the best out of it.
Cool. Where are you based now?
I'm based in Amsterdam.
Okay, so your band is in Amsterdam. You studied in Amsterdam, so you left Israel and Jerusalem long time ago, if I understand.
Well, Palestine, not Israel.
Yeah, sorry.
And I left when I was 17. I went to the US to study music, and then I left the US, went to Amsterdam to continue my studies. And now I'm really in between Amsterdam and Palestine, but mainly it's been Amsterdam.
So you back and forth still, even in this context, actually.
Well, because of this context, it's been a while that I've been able to go. I was supposed to go again in December, like in 2 months, but unfortunately, nobody knows what's going on. So that's not planned yet. But usually I like to go at least 3 times to 4 times a year to be connected with Palestine and, with the place I was born in, because that's always been such a huge inspiration for me as an artist.
Of course. I suppose your parents and your close family is still in Jerusalem.
In between, actually, all over Palestine, and there some of them are in Ramallah, which is a city I grew up in the West Bank. Some of them are in Akka, which is a city in the north of Palestine by the sea. And then, I have really family all over the place.
Yeah. So you grew up in Ramallah.
Yes.
Okay, I see. And well, uh, of course, you're probably totally devastated by what happens right now.
Yeah. I mean, there are really no words to describe it. It's one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult time we've ever been through as Palestinians. And now also the bombardment in Lebanon. It's been really, tragic, and this is the time more than ever to be as loud as possible and to really. It's not a time to despair. It's a time to work as hard as possible and to put our voices out there, no matter what.
So you seem to be optimistic despite all this catastrophe.
Well, I don't know if I'm optimistic, but I think my dad taught me at least that despair is a privilege. If you are despaired, then you have the privilege to be despaired, because other people, for example, Palestinians in Gaza right now, they don't have the privilege to be in despair. They don't have the privilege to be sad and to shut down and to just be in bed all day. They don't have that privilege. They're fighting for their lives every single minute. And I think that sentence really lives with me a lot, because a lot of times I don't have hope and I'm not optimistic, but I do not allow myself to despair. I allow myself to really go into action and do my part in helping as much as possible.
Yeah. How do you see your own engagement in that? You're a public person, you're a popular singer, so you can have an impact.
Yes, I think all of us as artists, no matter where you're from, I think we cannot be separated from reality. We cannot consider ourselves to be something above the world. We're not. We're really not. As good as you are, you're part of the world. So I really think we have the responsibility to use our platforms. It doesn't mean that everything you do has to become political or has a political statement. That's not what it means to be devoted to a cause. It just means that you have the conscience to follow and to really make it your responsibility to do as much as possible. So if you can't help, at least don't make it worse. So at least do your part, as minimum as it is, to just talk about it, to raise awareness, and for me as a Palestinian, it's really been my journey throughout my entire life. The reason why I do music is because of Palestine, because I was, born there and raised under occupation. And as a child, I always wanted to feel like I have something to express myself with. And music has always been that thing. So the reason why I started it and my first connection with music was because of Palestine and because I'm a Palestinian. And so this will always live with me. And I think this is what also keeps me going, no matter how devastating it is, but it keeps me going to be part of this cause, to be part of this, you know, journey of, to demand freedom and equality and justice.
Yeah, which is so difficult since 1948. So very, very tough. And it's very, very hard to see nice days in the close future, even in the far future. We don't know.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So you're obliged to live in Occident because of that. If it would work well, you would be in Ramallah and having your career there and traveling all over the world and come back home.
Exactly. That would be my dream, to be based in my country and to have the freedom to be there, to be able to travel freely, to be able to, do what I do, to do music, but have my base in my hometown. Of course, this is the dream of every Palestinian, and I'm privileged enough to still be able to go back at some points. But hundreds of thousands of Palestinians do not have that privilege and are forever displaced and have never even seen Palestine before. So it's just part of who we are, and it's part of why we continue.
Yes. Let's hope. Anyways,
Sure.
well, everybody that will be in Montreal will welcome you because you're a great singer,
Thank you.
and let's hope also that people from the Arabic community in Montreal will be there, but also non-Arabic to discover your tremendous voice and your very interesting and creative approach.
Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to meeting the audience and performing for the first time in Montreal.
Welcome in Montreal, Nai.
Thank you. Thanks
Have a
for
good
you
journey in
too.
Montreal. Bye
Thanks.
bye.
Bye bye.